SSNATL.com.
Hey, this is Emma on Financial Renaissance with the M's. Listen, join me, both of you, in Los Cabos, Mexico for Life Lux Jazz Festival, November 7th through the 11th. You'll be nestled on the Sea of Cortez.
Ooh, nice.
And yes, enjoying artists like Gerald Albright, Incognito, and the Average White Band, and more. You can go to lifeluxjazz.com for more information, and it's life, L-U-X-E, jazz.com for more information. Go on and book your flights, get your hotel. We are going to have a great time. In the studio today, I have Linda Dye from Pi Omega. See, even when you write it, I mess it up. I think it's just, you know,
It's okay. It's only the fifth time.
It's the fifth time. Tau Pi Omega.
Yes.
Chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated of Stone Mountain, Lithonia.
Yes.
How was that?
Yes, it's wonderful. Thank you.
All right, and we have Stephanie, my old neighbor, Stephanie Anderson from the Anderson Law Practice. How are you this morning?
I'm doing good. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too. I used to see her every day.
I know, I miss you.
I don't even hear you. Did you know that I blew the circuit breaker in that?
That sounds like you.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was me. Well, listen, we are here today because on next Saturday, if you are in the Georgia area, the metro Atlanta area, my favorite F word is what?
Free.
That's right, free. My favorite F word is free, and we have a free Building Your Economic Legacy workshop starring Stephanie Anderson and myself, and we are going to be talking about preserving your legacy, protecting your estate, and is there anything else we're talking about?
No, basically, that's it, and elder care law as well.
Ooh,
Yes.
Yeah.
we got a lot to talk about with
Yeah.
that. Oh
Yes.
my goodness.
There's so much to cover there.
So much to cover. We don't have all day. So estate, and it sounds complicated. So when we talk about, like, when we hear the words estate planning, it freaks people out.
It does.
Because you're like, oh, well, I don't have $1 million. I don't need an estate. And that is so not true. And estate planning for a lot of people, and probate, when you start throwing all these, 1,700 words out, people think they need a degree for it. But can you just explain a little bit, like break it down for, like, him, a person in high school, what is estate planning and probate law?
So estate planning really is just making sure we know who's going to be making decisions for you, whether it's you pass away or we're dealing with incapacity. So you don't have to be super wealthy to have an estate plan. So
hang on, do you know what incapacity is? Okay.
So just to break it down even further, right? So incapacity means you have lost the ability to communicate decisions for yourself, whether it's financial, legal, or healthcare decisions, right? So somebody as young as 18 years old needs an estate plan because guess what? Your parents can't automatically make decisions regarding your healthcare, your finances, or your legal decisions just because they're your parents.
Oh, yes. And every parent that has sent someone off to college, if they are over 18, you need a health care directive on that child. If they get into an accident, and we have kids now that have basically mental breakdowns when they get to college because of all the stress and pressure that they weren't expecting. And if you don't have that health care directive, there is not a thing as a parent you can do for them.
No,
so
not at all, unless you go down to the probate court, and I'll explain that a little bit more. But unless you go down to the probate court and the judge appoints the parent to be that decision maker, which costs a lot of money and takes a lot of time.
And you could, if your child is in another state.
Yeah.
Oh, it gets greasy, as we like to say.
It does. So yeah, an estate plan can really just be that simple, right? A financial power of attorney, where we're delegating someone to make your legal and financial decisions if you can't do it yourself due to incapacity. Same thing with healthcare, making your healthcare decisions or communicating your healthcare decisions to your doctor in case you can't do it due to incapacity.
So does everyone need an estate? Like, okay, Kamal, you'll be going to college, what, in 2 years? Okay, he got skipped. So we always have to try to figure out where he is in the world.
That's
he got
impressive.
skipped. I know, right? So, does a 18-year-old really need an estate plan?
Well, an estate plan can run the gamut, right? It can be as simple as those documents I was referring to earlier, where we're doing more so incapacity planning, right?
Okay.
Or we can also be planning for your assets at the time that you pass away. So for someone who doesn't really have any assets, we might not need to draft a last will and testament right now, right? We might need to wait until they actually do have some assets that we need to plan for.
Okay, all right. Well, when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about just the different documents. I want to break those down a little bit and also talk about trust, because people really like to talk about trust, and I have a lot of questions for you.
Oh,
We come
wow.
back
Okay,
on
good.
Financial Renaissance with the M's.
SNATL.com is a Radio 2 Atlanta station, which provides a daily mix of awesome hits with smart talk. For the smarter listener, your choice just became clear. SSNATL.com. Radio that's not dumbed down. Emma Knows Money is brought to you by AARP's Fraud Watch Network. Go to aarp.org or SSNATL.com and click the Fraud Watch Network banner for more info.
And we are back with Financial Renaissance with the M's. On Emma Knows Money today, we will be discussing protecting the family legacy. See, right on time. Protecting the family legacy, and then coming up, we will have my top 5 news stories of the week and another guest, Tanya Blanchard. But we are here in the studio with Linda Dye from Tau Pi Omega.
Chapter of
the-
Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Stone Mountain, Lithonia.
It's like this every time she shows up. And Stephanie Anderson from the Anderson Law Practice.
Yes.
My ex-neighbor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Linda, she used to see me every day. She never brought me breakfast though.
Oh.
Like that was the one thing I was like, yeah, I don't know, we're really, really cool. When like she rolls up with like breakfast for me, and it
She
never.
has high
We were
expectations.
we were neighbors for about 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, she never once brought me breakfast.
Wow.
You know how I feel about food.
Yeah.
All right. So Linda, tell us why your chapter, Tau Pi Omega, chapter of the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Stone Mountain, Lithonia, decided to do the Building Your Economic Legacy workshop series.
Well, it's part of our overall global program, actually, but it's very important for us to make sure that we educate our community, and I want to express our community because it's, challenging at times for us to, one, get access to the information, and then really to take action on it itself, right? So when you're around your family, and you're actually hearing people talk about it, you're getting examples about it as well, you start to absorb it and you start to think a little bit more and do take that action. So we want to make sure we help to educate even further on this and encourage people to take ownership, take accountability, and be intentional in their actions and decisions that they make for themselves and their families.
That was very beautiful.
Thank you. Try.
Are you a HBCU alum?
Absolutely.
Is there a school you want to shout out?
Florida A&M University.
And you are part of the,
We are the Rattlers. Yes, you were going to say?
I was going to say something
She was
about
going to
family.
say go Pirates, but that's okay.
Wow.
No. No, it was. My wife went to FAM. What are you
I
doing?
didn't know that.
What are you
It's all
doing?
love.
Yes.
What are you
HBCU
doing?
love.
Yes,
It's
it is. All love.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Stephanie, what are you doing? Causing dissension in my household? No, no, ma'am. And Stephanie, are you a product of HBCUs?
I am.
Would you like to tell us which one?
Hampton University.
HU.
The real HU.
Oh, wow.
Ooh,
Yes, it is.
I'm going to leave that where it lies. All right. So, what happens, Stephanie, can you tell Linda what happens if she doesn't have an estate plan?
I can. I think the biggest thing that people need to realize is that without an estate plan in place, you're not going to be making the decisions. It's going to be a judge that doesn't know anything about you, your family, your desires, that's going to end up making those decisions for you.
We're not going to make that happen.
Yeah.
We're not gonna let
What year were most of so each state has a set of laws, right?
Yes.
Okay, and when were those laws written into place?
Well, our probate laws were actually revised in 1986.
Okay.
They've been in place for quite some time, but there was a major revision in 1986.
Okay.
Yeah.
But before that, when were the laws written?
Oh, I mean,
We weren't
we're talking about
considered
Yeah.
We were 3/5 at the
Oh,
time.
yeah.
So for most brown people in this country, when those, like, if you don't have an estate plan, if you don't have a will, if you don't have those documents that we're talking about, each state has a will. They
That's
have a
true.
plan. But for a lot of us, we weren't even considered human beings at the time that these laws were put into place.
That's absolutely right.
The other thing, what are some of the dangers of people not having their will in place? Like if they have kids, if they, may not be married, but we're kind of in that pseudo blended family, staying together
Yeah.
type of stuff. Can you
Yeah.
explain to people how beautifully messy that is?
It's very messy. So one of the biggest things that a last will and testament will do is appoint a legal guardian for your minor children. You will say who you want to raise your kids in case you are unable to do so. So without having some type of documentation in place, as you all can imagine, it can get really ugly. And a lot of people can step forward and say, I want to be in charge of raising this child. And sometimes the intentions are not pure. They are, running to be the legal guardian because they assume with that comes money from the estate. So their intentions are not always pure.
Right.
So I always tell clients, when we're going through this process of trying to figure out who you want to be your legal guardian, don't consider the money, because sometimes the person that's going to do the best job of raising your child is not the best person with money. So sometimes we need to separate those two functions.
And we call the one that actually manages the money the executor?
Yes,
or
the executor.
What do you say if it's a woman?
Executress. Yes.
You're going to be the executress of my puppy.
Okay.
Yes, we're getting a dog, and
Congratulations.
she's
That's
not
what they
looking-
say now,
you know,
right?
she's like, I know, like it's a kid, right?
Yeah, right.
No, we're getting a dog, right? So anyway, so the executor is a person that manages the money. The guardian is the one that is going to take care of your child. They do not, I repeat, have to be the same person. Many of us have siblings that we know will take the best care of our kids.
Right.
However, they are fiscally irresponsible. Do you know what that means? I love it. He's like, don't embarrass me. My class is watching. So do you have like any pointers for people as they're thinking about, guardianship or even executors? Unfortunately, and I hate to say this, we feel like we're in the prime of our lives. I feel like I keep getting better every day.
Awesome.
But there are people that we know that are our age that are no longer with us.
Yes.
Okay? So as we're doing these estate plans and we're thinking about, excuse me, who is going to be our executor? Who's going to be our financial power of attorney? Who is going to be this person in charge of these documents for our lives? Like how many levels up or down do we need to be thinking?
My suggestion is to name a primary and try to think of at least 2 successors. Because again, you're trying to do everything that you can so a judge is not making those decisions for you. So if you only name one person, and for whatever reason that one person cannot serve, and you haven't named any backups, guess who's going to name that backup
The judge
for
will
you?
appoint it?
Right. And a lot of times the judges will appoint something called a county administrator. So it's not necessarily a family member or a friend, it's someone that you know. It's attorneys or third-party administrators that are employed by the court that will do that job, right?
Right.
So you don't know them, your family won't know them, right? And they'll be in charge of handling the estate.
Ooh, can you imagine?
And
Yeah.
does the cost of that person assigned go against your estate?
It does.
Yeah, wow.
It does. It's
What-
a cost that comes out of that. And
What's the
it's-
average, like 5 or
5%.
5%?
Wow.
5% of the estate value.
Mm-hmm.
So it's best to name your primary. You're going to always have a top choice, but try to think of at least 2 backups. And when you're thinking about who you want to be in charge, don't feel confined to name family members. Because sometimes blood is not the best
Here's
choice.
what I have to say about blood. Blood can get watered down with foolery, okay? Blood will get watered down with foolery
Yes.
in a quickness, because I have people, we have people in our, family, in our immediate circle that we consider family and, thick as thieves, that I would trust with my puppy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm claiming the puppy.
Mhm.
I'm going to keep throwing
Yes.
that out there. Okay.
Yes, put it out there in the universe.
Put it out there in the universe, and when I'll come home one day and there'll be a puppy sitting there. There've been a couple of cases in the media about people who, you know, in our community, the myths, the old juju, these old like slave ways, I call them, ways of thinking about money and death are just ridiculous. You know, people, money doesn't grow on trees. Yes, it does. Just like a seed, you plant it, it will grow. You know, there's a lot of things that we say about money that we need to stop saying. And also, just because you talk about a will doesn't mean you are closer to death.
Yes.
Every breath you take, you are closer to death.
Yes.
That's the reality.
Yeah.
Aretha Franklin died without a will,
Yeah.
and she had kids.
Yeah.
So to me, if you don't like your family, okay, and there's some of us out there who really don't like our family. If you don't like your family, the best thing that you can do for them to really get them back instead of haunting them is to not have a will. When we come back on Financial Renaissance with the M's, we're going to talk about some other celebrity estate planning mishaps. Lots of people meet friends and potential love interests online through dating sites, social media, or mobile apps. It can be a great way to meet people, but not everyone is who they say they are online. In fact, scams related to online relationships are on the rise. It's a red flag if the person wants to move quickly to personal email or instant messaging to continue talking. Professors Love Quickly claims to be from the United States but is working or traveling abroad. Plans to visit but cancels at the last minute. Ask for money to deal with an emergency or ask you to open a bank account for them. Here are some things you can do. Cut off contact if you suspect a scam. Watch your wallet. Don't wire money, send cash, or put money on gift cards for someone you know only online. Learn more about online relationship scams at aarp.org/fraudwatchnetwork.
This is big business. This is the American way. See ya.
And we are back with Financial Renaissance with the M's. You are watching us live on the Facebook, on the Twitter, on Periscope. We are on Sensation Station Network on Facebook. You can go to facebook.com/notdumbdown. If you feel so inclined to text us because you have a question, go ahead and text us at 678-613-5857. Pull out that two-way. You have that two-way.
I didn't.
You did?
No, I was.
Did you?
I didn't.
No.
You guys didn't have the Skype?
No, I wasn't fortunate.
Don't say stuff like that. Okay, well, during the break, we got into this conversation about estate planning and just the importance of it. And I was telling the ladies about a case that I had of a woman whose husband, her and her husband were talking about going to meet with a financial advisor. And the husband died in his 30s, right, from an aneurysm. And he, they were doing things right, but one of the things he did is for his life insurance, his group life insurance, he had his wife and his oldest child named as beneficiaries. They had just had a son, and they didn't name the son. So the funeral home hooked her up with a lawyer. The lawyer wasn't able to get in front of the judge, so she had to hire another lawyer who was able to get in front of the judge. They they split the monies up. Now imagine, you just lost your husband. Now you have to split this life insurance money with your 12-year-old.
Yeah.
And the way the money has to be set aside for kids, it has to be invested very conservatively, so there's no growth.
Right.
Right? You want to talk about a hot, sticky, stinking mess?
Wow. Yeah.
Hot, sticky, stinking mess. One of the things people need to learn not to do is, even though you love your kid, do not name them as a beneficiary without speaking to a lawyer first. And when we come back on Financial Renaissance with the M's, you can send your questions to our in-house lawyer.
Energizing a nation, one listener at a time. It's ssnatl.com. Radio that's not dumbed down.
We are back with Financial Renaissance with the M's. All kinds of goodness going on in the room this morning. In the studio. This is not my room. We have Stephanie Anderson from the Anderson Law Practice.
Yes.
And Linda Dye from Tau Pi Omega.
Tau Pi Omega.
Tau Pi Omega. Yeah. So, but during the yeah, I know your sisters hate me, but it's all good.
We're still working on you. It's okay.
Yes. Just recruit me. So one of the things we talked about during the break was a no contest provision. And the no contest provision is something that I absolutely love. And why do I love it? Because those siblings and those family members that you have that acted a fool when you were a kid, they will act a fool when somebody dies. And a no contest provision is?
So the provision states that if any beneficiary under this will contests any provisions related to it, the probate court is to treat them as if they predeceased me, which means they get cut out of the will altogether.
It's called the nut up if you want to clause.
Exactly.
Wow.
Act the fool if you want to clause.
Yeah.
Exactly. So those clauses are enforceable in Georgia. You do need an attorney that understands that they're enforceable and will actually ask the judge to enforce that provision, but they are enforceable.
Okay.
I think, though, personally, as an estate planning attorney, it's best to not depend on a no contest provision as a means of making sure there's no drama, because if we're at that point, there's drama already.
Hey, put it in there anyway and make sure that the people have good lawyers. I'm saying it's a nice kind of, you know,
Gotcha.
yeah, nice kind of
Yeah.
got you an Achilles heel to kind of give people the reason to think things thoroughly through.
Yeah, it is. But I will just say, like, from practice, it doesn't keep people from contesting. It doesn't. But they will have to pay in the end, right?
Thank you. There
so
we go.
that's the best thing.
That is the best thing.
Yeah.
Now, what is conservatorship mean?
So conservatorship is something called, or a lot of people refer to it as living probate.
Okay.
So, earlier we talked about a financial power of attorney, right? Where you've appointed someone to make legal and financial decisions on your behalf, right? And you've created this document while you were well. We end up getting calls a lot where someone will say, my mom just had a stroke. Can you help me with a financial power of attorney? And I'm like, does your mom still have the legal capacity to understand what a financial power of attorney is and to execute it? No, she does not. Well, if we're at that point, then we have to go through something called conservatorship, living probate, where we go to a probate judge and say, Mom can no longer make legal and financial decisions for herself. Here are the medical records to prove it, and we want to be the person to make these decisions for her. That process takes a lot of time, costs a lot of money.
Yeah, and it's better to do it ahead of time because, again, I'm an only child, well, with my mom. I'm an only child. But if you have siblings, and again, there could be aunties and uncles,
Yes.
and depending on the situation, things can get really, really messy,
Yes.
really, really fast. So
Really
the best thing to
fast.
do is, it doesn't cost a lot to get the documents, right?
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't cost a lot. If you want to make things, if you want to make a lawyer richer, if you want to make a lawyer richer, go ahead and go online and do those documents, or go to Home Depot or Office Depot, Max, whatever the heck it is, and go get those estate planning documents and fill them out. They are a hot, stinking, I've been trying to use the word horse stank. Horse stinking mess.
Okay.
Sorry. Listen, you are definitely going to have to come back, okay? Because
Okay.
we have a lot to talk about. We always have a lot to talk
do.
about.
Am I coming back?
No. No. Because I want to talk about elder care.
Yes.
That is going to be a really, really big thing, and that's that's a whole other,
It is.
15 segments, because I have a lot to say about elder care, and it's not just here in the United States, it's globally. There's a lot of things going haywire. So you will be with me next Saturday.
Yes, I
right?
will.
And we are giving back to the people.
Yes.
Yes.
That's right. We are giving from our hearts. Linda, can you tell the peoples? Oh, we have a question too. What do you do when you are going into major surgery in a month but do not have a will? Is it too late to get one?
No, a month is plenty of time to get all these documents drafted.
No, Trina.
So no, I don't think it's too late at all.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Now, can you tell the peoples? Can you tell them? this is a wife fight. Watch this. what you want to do? Can you tell people where to go? Not where
Yes.
to go, but tell people if they want to come and get this information live and direct and in Technicolor.
Absolutely. Our free seminar will be this Saturday, September 28th, at the Scott Candler Library from 11 to 1 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
So please come out.
Where's Scott Candler?
It's in Decatur.
Georgia.
Yes.
Caterer is greater.
In the deck,
Yeah.
as they say.
Yes.
Not too far from the Glenwood-Candler intersection. It's a beautiful library.
It is.
We have a wonderful setup, great turnout for the past 3 sessions that we've had already. So get early, get a great seat.
And you guys have food too, or snacks, right?
Yeah, we have snacks. We got to keep you filled up and energized to go.
Yeah,
It's
when
2
you're
hours
using your
of
brain.
right. It's 2 hours of impactful, useful information. So
And
you'll-
again, what the goal, and we're all doing this. I mean, there's no money involved. We're all doing this from the kindness of our hearts, and
and
we're
we
doing
thank
it.
you.
Feed me. You thank me, forget thanking me. You thank me in my belly. You know that. we don't have to have this conversation. But we're doing this from the kindness of our hearts because in our community, there is a lot of stuff that's lacking. And what's lacking is knowledge. And for knowledge is power. And, my thing is each one teach one. I did not go to a HBCU, but I understand now. Okay, I get it, and I know what I need to do for my community, and for us in our community. And it doesn't matter what color you are. It's not the color of your skin. It's not how much money you have. It's that you want to do better. You want to do better for yourself. You want to do better for your elder loved ones, and you also want to do better for the next generation. We've done a horrible job. With the next generations. It's our fault. I apologize to all millennials and Gen Zers and all that stuff out there. We didn't teach you guys the things that we need to teach you. Critical thinking skills, communication skills, and problem solving skills. That's on us, but we can turn this around. And the way that we're going to turn this around is by equipping our people with what it is that you need. You need insurances, you need documentation, you need investments, you need the first step in building wealth, a house, little things like that. That's what we're trying to do, is make sure that you are able to pass things down from one generation to the next, to the next, to the next. So hopefully the generations that follow us don't have to go through what we went through. And that's the bottom line. I guess we're not going to a commercial yet, so so all that was for nothing. That was my clothes, man. That was beautiful. Oh my gosh. So anyway,
Let's talk
Linda.
some more.
All right. Can we talk about dealing with grief after the loss of a loved one?
Yeah. So all that kind of gets lost in the mix of this, right? I think that's really the most important thing that families need to conquer too. They call us and they're wanting to do, let's get the paperwork done, let's get this transferred, let's do all these things. They're not dealing with the underlying issue of losing a loved one.
We do grieve horribly in this country.
We do.
It's like so like
And counseling and therapy is like bad words, and I'm like, that is gold. And if any point in your life you really need to talk to someone and help you get through this, and not dealing with it's just going to make the problem
it ends up manifesting itself. The one thing that we always tell people, and you and I have been in agreement with this, is that after you lose a loved one, you should wait about 6 months to a year before you make any financial decisions. Stephanie and I, we will treat people with kid gloves. We make sure that they have a roof over their head, there are utilities, they've got food, like the family's safe and secure.
Right.
But then everything else, if it can wait, it needs to wait.
Yeah.
Because there are people that have come to me that have been like fleeced by friends, by family, because they were grieving and weren't making the right decisions. And it is just, oh my gosh, it's god awful. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It is absolutely heartbreaking. And like
for me, it's still fresh for me, 2 years since my father passed. And so grief, it doesn't end at the same time for everyone. It's the process.
Right.
And so to your point, it's good to have these things in place so that you can have that proper time to dedicate to yourself and to your family and to cope through that.
And while you're even talking about this, we spoke about healthcare directives for people that are 18 years old and going away to college. You should also get life insurance on your kids, and it's kind of a twofold thing. The one thing is if it's a married couple, whatever, but if a child passes away, the two people are going to heal at different times. And one person may be ready to go back to work, the other person may not be ready to go back to work. And having that life insurance in place just gives you the time to heal and do all the things you need to do.
Absolutely.
Well, when we come back, thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
On Financial Renaissance with the M's, you're my biggest supporter.
Thank you.
You're my second biggest supporter. And listen, when we come back, we have Tanya Blanchard on Financial Renaissance with the M's.
Thank you.